morning and happy Easter. On this Easter, I'm coming to you from the temple steps here. You know, with how things are going on right now, the flights were so cheap. I found such a phenomenal deal. I thought, we can't meet together. Why don't I just fly over to Jerusalem? And we could meet from there, and we could have this from there. And it wasn't a bad flight. The decontamination stages you got to go through, they're a little bit worse than the body searches that we've come used to. But other than that, it's not bad. You know, I'm not in Jerusalem. You know that. But I figured we'd go with this look. And what we really got is, I'm at the building, and it's the green screen. We've got this, you want to know where it is? It's at the end of the auditorium, behind those doors down there, and we just have it. That's where we've been filming for over a year, the video announcements that we do with Hannah. And then Holly takes it and just does the wonders she does on the computers and can add this and that in, and the first thing you know, you can be anywhere. I'm on the temple steps. I could be looking down at the temple. We're sheltering in place. We're staying home. Maybe I'm out to some sports event. Could be that. Favorite restaurant. I could be there. I could be maybe I'm going to go to a movie theater. Yeah, I want to go to a movie theater. I can do that. Kids, are you missing your classroom? Boom, we're there. Parents, are you missing your kids being in the classroom? Boom, they're there. We do some fun things with that, and we can, but it allows us to do a few things that we're going to do today. The first thing today, though, that we want to do is something a little different than we have been doing. We've got some songs that are going to show up on the screen. We also have some a cappella music behind them. So if you really like your singing, you can turn the volume down and just hear yourself with that in the background. If you don't like your singing, you can turn the volume way up and turn yourself down a little bit. But go ahead, and we're going to sing some songs before we get into the lesson today.
In Christ alone my hope is found. He is my life, my strength, my song. This cornerstone, this solid ground. Where through the fiercest drought and storm, what heights of love, what depths of peace. When fears are still, when striving cease, my comforter, my all in all, here in the love
how deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure, that He should give His only Son to make a wretch His treasure. How great the pain of searing loss! The Father turns His face away, as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory. Behold the man upon a cross, my sin upon His shoulders. Ashamed I hear my mocking voice call out among the scoffers. It was my sin that held Him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. I will not boast in anything, no gifts, no power, no wisdom, but I will boast in Jesus Christ, His death and resurrection. Why should I gain from His reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart: His wounds have paid my ransom. But this I know with all my heart: His wounds have paid my ransom.
Don't know if you were with yourself singing, your family, or you shared that with someone, but hopefully you enjoyed the songs. I can't wait until we get back together and we can raise our voices in praise to God. Hopefully it'll be soon, but whenever it is, we will do that together. Today, I want to look at 4 points, starting with Palm Sunday. Okay? It's where I want to start, and the first point I want to look at is Jesus arrived. 3 years from the time He was baptized by John the Baptist. He walked around Palestine. He walked around teaching people. He walked around for 3 years. The country that He walked around, it's about a third of the size of Michigan. If you put it in the Great Lakes, it would fit completely in Lake Michigan. That's how small it was. But think about it, to walk around it, that's a lot of walking. For 3 years He walked around. He was teaching as He walked. We know of the Sermon on the Mount. We know of the parables. We know of all the teaching He did. He was performing miracles. We saw all the different things that He did as He walked around. And He was showing people God's love for 3 years. He fed thousands of people. And He had more left over than He had when He started. He healed people here from blindness, from demons, from different things. Going so far as with Lazarus, he was dead. And He rose from the dead. He went to the grave and He called him out. The wind, the waves, they obeyed Him. His teaching, as I mentioned, they said this isn't teaching that's like like taught by man. It was different. He took on the religious leaders. He did this for 3 years. And now, for the final time, he's coming to Jerusalem. The great grand fanfare. And we see the people here and there. I want to read from Mark chapter 11. I want to read verses 6 through 10. They answered as Jesus had told them, and the people let them go. This is when they went to get the colt for Jesus to come in on. When they had brought the colt to Jesus and threw their cloaks over it, he sat on it. Many people spread their cloaks on the road, while others spread branches they cut in the field. Those who went ahead and those who followed shouted, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna in the highest." They shouted this as they came into town. They're laying their coats on in front of this donkey, this colt that he's coming in on. Just to give you kind of some perspective on all this, I probably have 4 winter coats. I've got my lightweight one that I wear most of the time. I've got a heavier one when it gets really cold. I've got kind of a heavy one that's a few years old that I don't wear as much, but you know, it comes down a little farther, and sometimes I'll wear that out. I've got one that's 30 years old. Right? I've had it for over 30 years, and that's the one I wear when I go out to do something. If I got to get under the car, it's going to get grungy, I kind of wear that. I also, now that I think of it, I've got a really heavy jacket that I wear sometimes in the winter, so that I guess that could count as kind of a winter coat. And then I've got an overcoat that if I wear my suit jacket, then I'll need to wear that. So really I've probably got 6 coats. All right. Maybe more, but 6 winter coats. Let's say a VIP was coming into town, and they needed people to, when he got out of the car maybe, or in front of the car, whatever, to lay down their coats. Would you lay down your coat? I probably would. Maybe if it's a 30-year-old one, I would. But that would probably be about it. Well, I've probably got 6 times more coats than they had cloaks or what would be their coat in that day. They took them. They laid them down in front of this donkey. We see also palm branches being laid down and stuff. But this was laid down. Hosanna, the king was coming. They realized what was happening. The Messiah had come to town. It had to be. They had seen the miracles. They had seen Lazarus raised from the dead. They had seen all that he had done. We see him shouting, "Hosanna!" The word Hosanna there comes from 2 other words. What it means to save or to deliver. The second word it comes from means to kind of, it's a request, it's a plea. So basically what they were shouting was, "Come save us. You've come to save us, to deliver us. Please do this. We're beseeching you to save us." From what? From the Romans. That's what they thought. As they were shouting, "Hosanna," he's coming to save us from the Romans. He's going to restore Israel. It says, "Comes in the name of the kingdom of David. Blessed is he." They were expecting him to restore Israel as it was in the time of David. They were excited at the beginning of the week. And then at the end of the week, Jesus died. What? No, he's the king. He's coming in. He's going to do this. I'll bet that they expected right up to the point of when he breathed his last breath, that on that cross, he was going to pop those nails out. He was going to float down to the ground, or maybe just jump down. And then he was just going to kind of go Yoda on the guards, just boom, boom, and knock them back. I don't know. And then he's going to rally the people around and say, "We're heading into town. Who's with me? Let's go to Jerusalem." Tossing soldiers aside as they went into town. They get to the temple. He says, "I am here. I am the Christ. My reign has begun." They've been excited. That's probably what they thought was going to happen up until the time He breathed his last. And if someone got injured, he would heal them. He'd been healing people for 3 years. The worst case scenario, someone died. No big deal. Lazarus was dead. He came back to life. This is going to be great. And he breathed his last. They expected him to come off the cross. Well, he did. He was dead. And they buried him. I'm going to read from Luke. Luke chapter 22, starting in verse 55. Luke 22, I want to start reading. Luke 23, starting in 55. The women who had come with Jesus from Galilee followed Joseph and saw the tomb and how he had laid it in it. This is Joseph of Arimathea. He'd gone, he'd got the body, he'd wrapped it, he had taken it to this tomb. Then they went home and prepared spices and perfumes, but they rested on a Sabbath in obedience to the commandment. The following day, they stayed home. They rested. It was a Sabbath. It was their stay home order, but theirs was from God, not the governor. A little higher up the food chain. Okay. They stayed home. All of them, all the believers. We're told in 1 Corinthians 15:6 that Jesus appeared to over 500 of his believers. So we don't know how many there was, but there's a little over 500. What were they doing? They stayed home. They had to be worried. For 3 years, they had followed him. They had given up careers. They'd given up family. They'd given up ways of life to walk the road with the Messiah. And now he's dead. What were they going to do? For that whole Sabbath day, they had to be wondering, had they made a mistake? What was going on? What was going to happen next? Little did they know that Jesus survived. Yeah. Physically, he was dead. Breathed his last. His heart was no longer pumping blood through his body. Physically, he was dead. But he survived the grave. He survived the powers of death. I want to read from Luke chapter 24. Luke 24. Verse 4 here. Going down through verse 6. It says, while they were wondering about this, suddenly 2 men in clothes that gleamed like lightning stood beside them. In their fright, the women bowed down with their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He is risen. Remember how he told you while he was still with you in Galilee? He is risen. He was not dead. We go over to Acts chapter 2. Verse 24. Peter is talking here. He's addressing the crowd. And he says, but God raised him from the dead, freeing him from the agony of death, because it was impossible for death to keep its hold on him. He died, but he survived the hold, the grip of death. Death could not hold him. Can you imagine the joy these women had as they rushed back from the tomb? The tomb was empty. There was no one inside. They rushed back. Peter and James and John, they came running to the tomb. And they saw it was empty. The Lord was risen. And then when he was standing among them, the sadness of the day before, the overwhelming grief had turned to overwhelming joy. The Lord had risen. And what more? What more was going to happen? It's not that he had just survived, but Jesus thrived. I mentioned earlier that 500 or so believed in him when he died. Acts chapter 2 verse 41 says 3,000 were baptized. In Acts chapter 4, just a day or so later, it says there were 5,000 men. That means there was probably close to 10,000 that now believed. I like Acts chapter 6, verse 7. It doesn't tell us how many, but it says, even the priests were becoming obedient. From Jesus dying. From him being buried. Just 500 knowing. It spread to thousands. Jesus thrived. Isn't that what he told us? In John chapter 12. I want to read verse 24. Very truly, I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. A seed, when it dies, produces many more seeds. Holly and I have a friend from college. His name is Jim Gregory. Jim's an interesting character. Loved Jim. Jim was an interesting character. Good character, very positive and stuff. He got his PhD in agriculture. I forget exactly what discipline, but he got that because he wanted to be a missionary. Well, first of all, you're going, okay, if you want to be a missionary, shouldn't you get a degree in Bible or something along that line? No, he got his PhD in a field that wasn't what you'd expect. It was agriculture. Well, why? He wanted to go work as a missionary in their country, but he didn't want to be at the whim of some congregation of whether they're not going to like something, they're going to change what they want to do, and so they couldn't support him and he'd have to come back. Didn't want to have to apply to be a missionary in some country and the country would let him in or not let him in. So he got a degree in agriculture so he could go work in a country. They'd want him to come in a developing country to help them, and he did. He went to, I believe it was Argentina. And I remember once when he was back, and we happened to be back in Texas at the same time, we were talking, and I love Jim. He was telling a story about the year before, I believe it was, or a couple years before, they'd come home at Christmas. They were home, and the kids had got some presents, and they packed them all up and were taking them back, along with, he had a burlap sack of seed corn. He was going to help them start growing their own corn in this area and stuff, and so he brought some seed corn back. Well, they get to customs in the town they were in, and the customs agents say, excuse me, I'm sorry, but you can't bring those toys in, they're not allowed. Jim said, yeah, they are. I've gone through other customs. Nope, they're not allowed. He knew they were going to confiscate them and take them home and give them to their own kids. Okay? They were crooked. That's what you deal with in some of these countries. Well, the two things that happened. The other thing they were going to confiscate is corn. With the toys, like I said, Jim was Jim. He said, okay, well, let's take these toys out back. Let's smash them. Let's burn them. If they're not allowed in this country, we need to destroy them right now. And they said, oh, just shut up and take your toys and go. Well, the other thing was he knew they weren't going to let the corn in because there were certain agricultural laws and stuff. And he had done everything he needed to. But he knew they weren't going to let that in. So when they weren't looking, he opened the bag. I think he said he cut it open somehow. Reached in, grabbed with each hand a handful of seeds and put them in his pockets when they weren't looking. Knowing very well that it set him back a year, but with those few kernels of corn that he had, the next year he'd have more. And the next year he would have more. See, when Jesus died, his mission thrived. It didn't stop. Tremendous things happened. We have arrived at this spring. Not by any action you did. Not by any fault of our own. Yeah, we can blame individuals or countries if we want. But we're arrived. We're here. Regardless. We've arrived at Easter, where I'm standing in front of a green screen or whatever's behind me right now, and you're at home or somewhere. We're separated. We've arrived here. Spring has died. There's no real Easter service as we had planned for the kids to do the QR codes and run around or get the eggs or whatever. There's no trips. I know there are trips planned this spring. 10 days from now, I was planning on being in Hawaii. Those trips are all gone. Sporting events are gone. Spring concerts are gone. School is gone. Graduation, proms, all those things are gone. It all just disappeared. Spring is not going as we had planned. Spring died on one hand. When we come out of this, and when that will be, we don't know. At first we were told that we would have to be a group of 10 or less, or it was 100 or less, 50 or less, 10 or less. Then we were till the 14th, I think they were saying, 13th or 14th of April. Now they're saying the end of April, and it could be longer now. It probably is going to be at least 1st of May. But we are going to come out of this. The projections show us that, if you're watching the apex, you've heard of that, the bell-shaped curve, you're probably tired of hearing of all of those. We're peaking here in Michigan. We're kind of ahead of the curve on some people, behind New York, but we've heard all of this. We're going to look back, be it weeks, be it months, be it years. And you know something? We're going to have survived. The church, God's people, will have survived. It will continue to go forward. In the midst of all this trouble and all this difficulty and all this whatever we have to deal with, there's no reason that the church can't thrive. In the 1st century, into the 1st century and started the 2nd century, Christians were persecuted. Horrible things were done to them. They were tortured, they were killed, they were dipped in tar and oil and put on stakes and lit on fire to light garden parties of the Roman emperors, the Roman governors, the Roman elite. Do you know that a century or so later, Christianity had conquered the Roman world? How? Because even through difficulty, Christ's people can thrive. How do we thrive? I don't know. We go forward, being, doing, helping, encouraging, whatever we can. We thrive because we will survive. Even though our spring died. And at this spot, we've kind of arrived. What are you going to do? Easter is here, and we're going to go forward from Easter. I hope you and your family have a good Easter. Probably different than you planned, different from past years. But I hope you have a good Easter. We're going to sing another song, and I hope that your day is good. Stay safe. I love you.
How great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness your loving kindness tore through the shadows. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion